Hello, everybody. How are we doing? Are we ready? I'll tell you what I didn't need at like 5 a.m. this morning. A load of technical difficulties. Apologies for being a little bit later than expected. But yeah, got in here, started to turn everything on, and of course, my microphone just didn't work. So was putting that together before coming live on the channel because I figured the first 10 minutes being absolute silence, probably not the best idea. Thank you, Nobody166. Apologies for being late, but thank you for the subscription. Just woke up, this better not disappoint. Morning, all morning indeed. Yeah, I wish I just woke up, but I woke up a bit early. I woke up a bit early and I was like, I'll turn things on and then maybe I'll, go and have like a 5 minute lay down if needed. But instead, yeah, just everything didn't work, which is great. Let's double check some bits and pieces for today then. Have a little gander at the qualifying board. That is not the qualifying board. What's gone on? What's gone on there? I think it's loaded one of the free practice sessions. Midway through one of the free practice sessions. Unless we're 6 laps into the race, which I'm doubtful of, considering I'm watching it live. Even the Vegas GP is giving me problems. I know. I'm one of the locals, effectively. Me and the locals combined. Still a bit new to this, but hyped for this race. I mean, if there's one race to be hyped for, it's supposed to be this one because, my goodness me, they have thrown every single piece of advertisement that you could ever want, need, or hear of at this Grand Prix. It is the most anticipated Grand Prix that I can remember. I just think the way that they have put together this Grand Prix weekend, I haven't seen a race like built up to in this way, like a brand new race built up to in this way ever, I don't think. Like, obviously, Abu Dhabi 2021, that had a lot of build up to it because it was like the championship decider. But maybe second to that, maybe even above that, the Las Vegas Grand Prix has just been constant hype and anticipation and craziness, effectively, where everything that they've added, everything that they've talked about, everything that they've shown has just been all about the Las Vegas Grand Prix for, well, not even the last couple of weeks. Like, even before the triple header, they were building up anticipation for this Grand Prix rather than building up anticipation for things like Qatar. Like, Qatar was sort of new to the calendar. Obviously, we did go there once before in a bit of an emergency, but it was brand new to the calendar this season, hadn't been on for a little while. There was, lots of tracks that have been added recently, but this one is just something else. How did the Ferrari driver hit a manhole? Because it was loose, effectively. Because it was loose, and these cars, effectively, they're like a plane wing upside down. Plus, they have all of the added grip from... There's basically channels underneath the car, which act a little bit like a Hoover, I guess. They kind of suck the car towards the ground, but they also pull the ground towards the bottom of the car. Obviously, usually the ground doesn't move, but over time must have dislodged the manhole cover just enough. And Carlos Sainz got unlucky. Carlos Sainz got unlucky and basically just sucked up into the bottom of his car. What's happening? Nothing at this moment in time. We're out a couple of minutes away from the formation lap for round 22 of the season. Just a little bit of build up, just having a little gander. I mean, it is Vegas, that is very true. It is the Vegas Grand Prix, as we keep being told. Down the Las Vegas Strip, of course. The third longest track of the year. after Spa and Saudi Arabia. 50 laps of the Grand Prix today. Each row on the starting grid has an interesting pairing. Turn 1 should be fun. There's loads of like really good little battles, isn't there? There's loads of like needle between quite a few of the drivers, which is very and like there's quite a nice mix as well, I think, of different different pairings that sort of have lots and lots of different little battles going on. Turn 1, I think, will be very, very interesting. Like Sonoda Stroll starting from the back, then Piastri and Joe as well, obviously kind of the newest rookie, and a rookie who's been here for a little while. Ocon and Norris is an interesting one because they've both been around the grid for a little while now, trying to sort of battle back towards the points that they were probably expecting. Ricciardo and Hulkenberg. Ricciardo trying to get back into the points. Hulkenberg also on a weekend where he opted to go for, the old package for the Haas. Sainz and Perez is an interesting one, especially with Hamilton and Alonso just in front. That kind of battle for second place. Then there's Kevin Magnussen, who's trying to beat out his teammate, Valtteri Bottas, in front of that. 2 Williamses in Sargent and Albon together on the grid. And then all of a sudden, Gasly having the season of his life, or the second half of the season of his life. George Russell, who's again looking to kind of improve on this season, hasn't had the best one in the overall standings. If you look at him in the Drivers' Championship compared to like the rest of the top 8, you would say. And then Charles Leclerc on pole position with Max Verstappen just beside him. And it's looking like it's going to be another one of those. Well, Charles Leclerc starts on pole, but does Max Verstappen just win anyway? Like, formation lap is happening soon. Hopefully so. We're seeing the drivers getting in the cars. Visors are coming down. Those clear visors for the nighttime Grand Prix, which I do really enjoy. You can see the drivers through them, hence being clear. But also you can just see the driver's eyes. Lewis Hamilton hyping himself up. A little bit of an applaud to the camera. Does Sargent have 3 home Grand Prix now? Sort of. Like, Miami is his proper home Grand Prix because it's closest to where he grew up. But then, like, Austin and Las Vegas are quite far away from Miami. Like, even though it's all the US, we kind of forget as Europeans that the US is big. You know what I mean? The US is so much bigger than any European country. I guess apart from like Russia, if you count Russia as Europe, although it's like Russia kind of spans across Europe and Asia. Here we go then. We are underway for the formation lap. Charles Leclerc gets us going, trying to warm those medium compound tyres through as much as he possibly can. George Russell and Gasly behind, also on the medium compound tyre. Albon, Sargent, that third row of the grid for Williams. Like, don't know if we've seen that in a very long time, where Williams have dominated and got themselves onto the third row of the grid. Goodness me. Here we go. Now my graphics aren't working. This morning is cursed. Does feel like this morning is just not happening. What's going on? Why is the live timings not working? Let's just close that and open it again whilst we're still on the formation lap and we are seeing the cars wander around towards the start of the grid. All right, let's go. Come on. Lots of drivers being told to really get the temperature through those tyres if possible. I can See that there's quite a lot of burnouts being planned by the majority of drivers on the grid. Apologies, the track map and the live timings might be a little bit... Ah, there we go. Here we go. Here we go. Just in time. It gets to work. As you can see, the majority on medium compound tyres. Lewis Hamilton going with a harder compound tyre. Might struggle off the line is the only problem that I can see with the hard compound tyre in the mix there for Lewis Hamilton. Perez and Sainz behind him on the medium compound tyre. Lando Norris, no fresh set of medium for Lando Norris. 1 lap done on them. And similarly, Piastri on a slightly used set of hard compound tyres. They've already had a lap of running through them as well. Lance Stroll on a used set of soft compound tyres. Yuki Tsunoda also on soft compound tyres. So those two at the back really hoping to make up some track position early on in this Grand Prix off the starting line. Morning, Jay. Love the hat. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Where's the live board? Yeah, apologies. It was coming. It was coming. Just had a couple of little technical difficulties, of course, this morning. So when are you going to see some technical difficulties? Of course, the earliest race that we've had in a little while. Yeah, of course, Charles Leclerc starting on the cleaner side of the track should play into the Ferrari's advantage. Plus, the fact that the Ferrari is a little bit quicker in a straight line. Charles Leclerc, with a good launch here, should be in a pretty good position moving forwards. But we know that it's Max Verstappen, and we know how dominant he has been this season. And we don't know how cold the tyres are going to be. We're still watching the last few drivers coming around that final corner. That, of course, during the race will be effectively flat out. But Yuki Tsunoda takes 20th position, which is on the corner. It's a slight kink at the back of the starting grid. But here we are then, 5 lights, and we are away. Max Verstappen with a great launch is going to be right up beside Charles Leclerc and is going to have the inside line to turn 1. And Max Verstappen shoving Charles Leclerc off the track, pushing the Ferrari. Wow, and it's chaos at the back. It is absolute chaos at the back. There's a yellow flag already in that first sector. Lots of drivers shuffling places. Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz dropping backwards really quickly. Yuki Tsunoda with that soft compound tyre and the fact that he was able to get through the traffic right up into 11th, 12th place already. Nico Hulkenberg also gaining because of that. Logan Sargent drops behind Kevin Magnussen. Ocon has also been a real massive winner in all of this. Jumps up into 8th place. Lance Stroll the same into 9th. But it was absolute chaos in the first corner with a bundle of cars all recovering from collisions. But Max Verstappen took the lead down into turn 1. A really good launch from the Red Bull car. Just got up the inside of Charles Leclerc into turn 1. Had that opening position and then just shuffled the Ferrari wide. Fernando Alonso with damage to his Aston Martin car running around at the back. We can see there Valtteri Bottas, the only car behind him. But Kevin Magnussen now going side by side with the Williams. And Magnussen having a little look, but not this time. Logan Sargent holds on to that 6th place then from Kevin Magnussen. They've swapped positions a couple of times now, the Williams and the Haas. But it is a virtual safety car. Virtual safety car. Possibly to get rid of some debris down in towards turn 1. And Sergio Perez comes in. Perez into the pits and obviously playing the long game here. Perez getting that pit stop done whilst we have the virtual safety car advantage and also to get a new front wing as well. So a little bit of damage to Sergio Perez's front wing in and amongst that melee at the beginning of the Grand Prix. And here is Fernando Alonso also into the pits. Valtteri Bottas behind him. So will the Aston Martin continue? Looking like it will, but again, a new front wing for Fernando Alonso. It really was just a few cars. There was 4, 5, 6 cars all coming together. And yeah, a little bit of debris. The Marshals out on track, picking up that debris. It is off the racing line, but still wants to be picked up now. Let's have a little look at this race start again then. Hello, lads. How are we all doing in the chat? Apologies, a little bit distracted. Max Verstappen really well. Let's have a little look then. It is Carlos Sainz comes into contact. Oh, there's just everywhere. Bottas comes into contact with Alonso. Sainz comes into contact with Hamilton. And then sort of there's a domino effect because of that. Charles Leclerc is pushed completely off the track. And Charles Leclerc on the radio asking about Max Verstappen, saying, I was pushed completely wide and Max Verstappen wasn't ahead at the apex, so surely I get that position back. Here's the onboard from Logan Sargent, and the front 6 are all fairly good. You can see the Haas of Kevin Magnussen. We also see, there's where Fernando Alonso comes past, and Fernando Alonso, I think, just spins all by himself, possibly. I was going to say maybe comes into contact with Alex Albon, but I think Fernando Alonso just spins whilst all on his own. And that just caused a little bit of a ripple effect, to take James Lawrence Alcott saying, all the way down the pack. But here we are then. Verstappen leads Leclerc as the virtual safety car ends. Russell and Gasly still behind. The 2 Williamses have held position in 5th and 6th. Kevin Magnussen 7th, but huge winners. Esteban Ocon up into 8th place all of a sudden. Lance Stroll has jumped up 10 places up into 9th place. Nico Hulkenberg up into 10th and into the points with his teammate. Yuki Tsunoda starting from the back of the pack up into 11th place. The McLaren cars. Oscar Piastri starting all the way towards the back. Lando Norris as well, making up a couple of positions up into 12th and 13th. It's then those guys behind. Hamilton dropping down into 14th place after being caught out by Fernando Alonso spinning. Carlos Sainz also came into contact. Oh! Someone's gone off there. That was a huge impact. And is that Lando Norris? That is Lando Norris. Norris is out of the Grand Prix, and that's going to be a full safety car. Somebody's gone deep into turn 14, and it is Lando Norris. And a full safety car is confirmed. This massively plays into Sergio Perez, Fernando Alonso, and Valtteri Bottas' hands, especially if the rest of the pack don't come into pit, which is not looking like they're going to. So Sergio Perez is probably going to try and go the entire Grand Prix on those hard compound tyres. Oh, and that is a big shunt from Lando Norris. Luckily, he has been on the radio and said he is okay. So Lando Norris with a hefty hit in that McLaren. But I don't know what actually happened there. Lance Stroll comes into pit under the safety car conditions. Of course, you do gain quite a lot coming in under the safety car. Carlos Sainz also comes in under the safety car for hard compound tyres. So I feel like a lot of drivers using the safety car opportunity and thinking about possibly going until the end of the Grand Prix on a set of hard compound tyres. But as I said, this plays into Sergio Perez's hands because he's going to be able to catch the back of the pack after pitting under the virtual safety car. Lance Stroll kind of plays into his hands too. Obviously is pitted as well. Actually, Lance Stroll is now first of the drivers that have pitted. So we've got Lance Stroll, Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz, Fernando Alonso, and Valtteri Bottas have all pitted. Alonso and Bottas, though, possibly. Oh! He lost the back end of the car and skid all the way down. Yeah, so it wasn't actually in turn 14 that he made the problem happen. He just completely lost the rear end of the McLaren before he got to turn 14. And a hefty hit for Lando Norris, but he is okay in the McLaren car. Lewis Hamilton, the car behind. Oh, a little bit of debris hitting into Lewis Hamilton's car. Lewis Hamilton will have to just double check there isn't any damage there, but a real shame to see Lando Norris out of this one. Obviously, not the qualifying that McLaren would have wanted yesterday, but was looking into getting into the points, was up into what, 13th place behind Oscar Piastri. It wasn't out of the question, but such a shame. Such a shame for Lando Norris. Can I explain how the virtual safety car works? Okay, so the virtual safety car effectively comes in and is like a safety car light. So it doesn't have quite the impact on the grid as a full safety car does. So you can see under a full safety car, the whole grid, the whole 20 drivers get caught back up to themselves. So Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc will have Valtteri Bottas and Fernando Alonso right behind them now. Whereas a virtual safety car, you just have to stick to a certain lap time. It is a lap time which is lower than normal. So obviously, the lap time around here you can see has been kind of around a 140 for the weekend, getting into the 130s for qualifying. And a virtual safety car, yeah, it just reduces the speed of the drivers by, I think it's, yeah, Antonio, 40%. 40%, there you go. So it reduces the speed of the drivers by 40%. So they all just have to slow down by around 40% for their lap time. So if Valtteri Bottas has been lapped, for instance, under the safety car, he can unlap himself. Whereas under the virtual safety car, he just goes a bit slower. Oh! And Valtteri Bottas and Fernando Alonso, there's double contact between the two of them. And I think Lewis Hamilton and Carlos Sainz had their own coming together. So Valtteri Bottas, you can see the Williams is there up the inside. And yeah, he's just got nothing he can do. Fernando Alonso comes out of nowhere, spinning all by himself. And Bottas then bumps into Alonso twice off the starting grid, but not really too much that the Finn could do about it. Fernando Alonso just appears in the picture. And it's because Sergio Perez also bumps into the back of Valtteri Bottas as well. So Sergio Perez, Bottas basically in the wars there, bumping into Alonso in front and bumping into Perez from behind. Carlos Sainz spins after coming into contact with Lewis Hamilton's rear wheel. Yeah, oh my goodness me. That is Carlos Sainz literally was trying to dodge Lewis Hamilton's car. You can see him rotate the wheel away from Lewis Hamilton and just get absolutely no response from the car. That is the lack of grip that some of these drivers have got off the starting grid. And Lewis Hamilton, as I said, debris hitting that front wing. He's a little bit concerned. Okay. Charles Leclerc then asking on the radio once again why Max Verstappen hasn't been, given any kind of penalty or given any kind of reprimand for pushing him off the track effectively into turn one. But the Ferrari team just telling him to calm, telling him to be prepared for the restart. It's not over yet. Ferrari does have the straight line speed advantage. If he can get himself into a nice window, the undercut, overcut is still on for Charles Leclerc. It's not impossible that he will be able to get past Max Verstappen at some point. So let's forget what happened in turn one. We'll wait to see what the stewards say about that. But focus on the race in front of us now is effectively the words from the Ferrari pit wall to Charles Leclerc. But we're now seeing the cars, especially those cars towards the back of the pack on the hard compound tyre, really trying to work those tyres to get the temperature into them Safety car is still out, by the way. We haven't had confirmation as of yet when the safety car is coming in. And there it is. Safety car at the end of lap 6 of the inaugural Las Vegas Grand Prix. Of course, we were here 40 odd years ago under the Caesars Palace Grand Prix name. But the first Las Vegas Grand Prix as it is known. Rob McElhenney there. And Madonna? Is that Madonna? Yeah. Showing my little knowledge of celebrities. But the safety car is ending, and Max Verstappen is effectively going to become the safety car. As we come through this final sector, you see the car's coming around turn 14, the safety car coming towards the pit entrance, but Max Verstappen becoming the safety car for now. And Verstappen being given similar information to Charles Leclerc, just saying, look, that lap 1 incident is with the stewards. We'll have to wait and see. But at this moment in time, we are not going to give position back to Charles Leclerc as we see the car snaking towards the start line. Max Verstappen all the way down that Las Vegas strip, shaking the car from left to right, really trying to build up that tyre temperature for the surface of the tyre, because he's going to have the run down from turn 14, 15, 16, and Charles Leclerc boosting off behind as well. Max Verstappen gets us back underway then on lap 7 of this Grand Prix. And the run down towards turn 1 looks like the Red Bull has done enough to keep the Ferrari at bay as they go down towards turn 1. George Russell behind as well. Pierre Gasly slotting in. Oscar Piastri having a little look at Yuki Tsunoda down towards turn 1. And the McLaren getting himself up into the points. But Yuki Tsunoda is going to try and come back at him and around the outside. But no, Oscar Piastri gets that move done. And Yuki Tsunoda down into 11th place. Fernando Alonso also making a move, trying to get past Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. And the car's weaving at the back of the pack. But two Spaniards going side by side, and Carlos Sainz takes the position back from Fernando Alonso. Not happy at all that he was trying to get past the Ferrari car. But the Aston Martin right underneath the rear wing of Carlos Sainz's car. And the two Spaniards, even though it's 17th and 18th place, going wheel to wheel. Trying to nail each other to the wall by the looks of things. But Charles Leclerc a couple of seconds off Max Verstappen. Then another 1.5 seconds to George Russell. Pierre Gasly's within DRS. So is Alex Albon, Logan Sargent. So a little bit of a DRS train behind George Russell at this moment in time. Once DRS is, of course, activated again. Lando Norris crash looks very similar to Charles Leclerc last time in Brazil. Possibly, yeah, rear axle locking. I think it was just the fact that he was also like cornering and just snatched away from him the rear end of the car. And once you're in the wall, you're in the wall. That's kind of done and dusted for your weekend, I'm afraid. Lando Norris, the first driver to drop out of the Las Vegas Grand Prix, is Lewis Hamilton going side by side with Yuki Tsunoda, also trying to get into the points. And Yuki Tsunoda's become a little bit of a sitting duck in that AlphaTauri car. Oh, a 5-second time penalty for Max Verstappen has come through. A 5-second penalty confirmed for Max Verstappen. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I mean, 5 seconds for Max Verstappen. We'll see whether or not that makes a huge difference to him. He has got a 2-second lead over Charles Leclerc already after just a couple of laps after the safety car came in. But a 5-second penalty for Max Verstappen for forcing another driver off the track. That turn 1 incident for Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc Charles Leclerc now just needs to keep within that 5 seconds for another 43 laps. Esteban Ocon looking at the back of Kevin Magnussen. And Esteban Ocon peeling to the left of Kevin Magnussen as we get down towards turn 15. Oh, no. Peels away from the back of the Haas and decides against it. The Alpine obviously struggling a little bit on the straights in comparison to everybody else. Just because of the brake horsepower disadvantage that the Renault engine has compared to the other 3 engine manufacturers used on the Formula 1 grid. And Max Verstappen sets the fastest lap of the race, clearly given the news of the 5-second penalty and also given a little bit of a hurry up to try and elongate that position. DRS now enabled. You can see as we go down towards turn 5, Esteban Ocon using that DRS to his advantage. And DRS will be there for him again. Possible race strategies. They're expecting a 2-stop, medium onto hard, onto hard. Obviously, a lot of the guys towards the back of the pack from Stroll downwards already pitting under the safety car or virtual safety car. They are now 14 seconds off the lead, but have already done a pit stop. Max Verstappen, not too worried about not too worried at all about that penalty by the sounds of things. Says to the stewards, sends my regards. And there is Ocon with the DRS this time as well. The added benefit of the DRS down towards turn 14. The Alpine's going to come sauntering past the Haas of Kevin Magnussen. Esteban Ocon moving back towards his teammate and up into 7th place. Pierre Gasly up in 4th in that battle. Fastest laps changing hands. Verstappen, Leclerc, and then Russell with the fastest lap. Pierre Gasly still within DRS range of George Russell. Alex Albon then 1.5 seconds behind, with Logan Sargent playing the team game behind. Kevin Magnussen's now also going to get overtaken by Oscar Piastri. And Oscar Piastri up into 8th place. So Ocon, Piastri and Magnussen having a nice little battle between them, as Magnussen is now going to come back at Piastri down towards turn 5 and retakes that position from the Australian. Nico Hülkenberg, the last car running in the points, but under huge pressure from Lewis Hamilton, who is only 0.3 of a second behind the German driver. Gasly sticking to the back of George Russell so well, as the rest of the field is starting to eke out a little bit. Piastri is putting Magnussen under pressure though. It's going to be, again, with DRS on the harder compound tyre though, Oscar Piastri, so does need to be a little bit careful. Gasly closing the gap to George Russell with the DRS as well, just getting closer and closer to the rear wing of that Mercedes car. And it does feel like sooner rather than later that Pierre Gasly is going to make a move for the podium scoring positions. Lewis Hamilton has finally been able to make that move on Nico Hülkenberg and is up into the point scoring places in 10th. And then we're looking at Sergio Perez making some moves. Oh no, sorry, that's Yuki Tsunoda, I imagine, coming into the pits by the looks of things. Yeah. Can't see any confirmation of Tsunoda coming into the pits, but must be, because he is dropped all the way to the back of the pack. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll again getting side by side with one another into turn 5, and Carlos Sainz getting back up into 16th place. Both of the Spaniards not holding on to those hard compound tyres at all, just using them to try and get past one another as quickly as they possibly can. Thank you, Marshall, for subscribing. Appreciate that, mate. 5-second penalty for Max. Indeed, Antonio. 5-second penalty confirmed for Max Verstappen in this one. Charles Leclerc on the radio. Ooh, I see. Charles Leclerc also not happy about Max Verstappen stopping on the apex of 14 when we had the safety car restart. And that's why Charles Leclerc dropped a couple of seconds behind Max Verstappen. But Charles Leclerc now closing that gap just a touch. Couple attempts on the last few laps, just closing in. Although Max Verstappen now sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Pierre Gasly still right underneath the gearbox of George Russell. It does feel like the Alpine, just with a tiny little bit more straight line speed in that Alpine car, and we would see Pierre Gasly up into third place, but George Russell doing well to hold him off and keep the Alpine at arm's length for this moment in time. Albon and Sargent still comfortably running in 5th and 6th place. Esteban Ocon is the car behind, but still over a second behind Logan Sargent. Still no DRS. And you just can't imagine that Esteban Ocon is going to be able to get that Alpine car ahead of Logan Sargent. The only thing that might obviously disadvantage them is the cars like Lance Stroll and Carlos Sainz down in 15th and 16th place. They're still only 19 seconds off the lead. And we're looking at quite a long pit stop. It's expected to be, obviously we haven't seen one under full racing conditions, but expected to lose you around about sort of 27 to 29 seconds. So it is a long pit stop. So that's why pitting under the virtual safety car and under the full safety car is such a big advantage. You're gaining a real chunk of time. Piastri stole a bunch of Red Bull, drank it all. Does seem alive and awake, does Oscar Piastri. And Carlos Sainz. Ooh, Carlos Sainz overheating. Needs some cooler air coming into the engine of that Ferrari and trying to get past Daniel Ricciardo and into some clean air if possible. Lance Stroll and Sergio Perez still up the road. Sergio Perez now the leader of the pack of cars that have already pitted. Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda just effectively moving cones at this point in the race. Unfortunately, the AlphaTauri nowhere near the pace that we've seen from it in the last few weekends. Just falling backwards. Daniel Ricciardo hasn't even pitted yet on those medium tyres. And is just being dispatched by Perez, Stroll, Sainz, and I'm sure Fernando Alonso will get past the AlphaTauri sooner rather than later as well. NASCAR is better. Never watched NASCAR, I'm going to be honest with you. It's one of those motorsports that's just never quite taken my fancy. Maybe I'll give it a go. Fernando Alonso right under the rear wing of Daniel Ricciardo already. He's going to get that move done before we even get anywhere close to turn 14. And Fernando Alonso up into 15th place. Daniel Ricciardo, as I said, just falling like a stone at this point, down into 16th. Hulkenberg and Tsunoda, of course, have also pitted, but they didn't get the benefit of pitting under the virtual safety car. Actually, we did see them. How long was Yuki Tsunoda in the pits for? Tricky. Think the Norris crash and cold temperatures making drivers a little hesitant? Not so much hesitant. I think they're just being patient. I think they are realizing that, oh, Esteban Ocon has managed to get past Logan Sargent in all of that. And there is a yellow flag in Sector 2, which is then taken away very swiftly. Sergio Perez, fastest of anybody, sets the fastest lap, 17 seconds off the lead. And Perez is in a real position here. Like, we're talking about, the 5-second penalty for Max Verstappen and whether or not he'll stay in front of Charles Leclerc. I think Sergio Perez could really come into this towards the pit stops in and amongst it. And Logan Sargent is now struggling in the Williams as Oscar Piastri also now making a move, and Lewis Hamilton trying to make it 3 overtakes in a very short period of time, and does. Logan Sargent now down into 9th place, and all of a sudden Ocon, Piastri and Hamilton have all zoomed past Logan Sargent. Kevin Magnussen into the pits and releases Sergio Perez into the point scoring places, so the Red Bull already back up into the point scoring positions whilst having already pitted as well. And Sergio Perez actually just being very careful indeed. But a nice move nonetheless from the Mexican. Having to get past Zhou Guanyu there and make sure he doesn't get caught up in the Hamilton-Sargent battle as well. Closing in on that gap. Charles Leclerc now closing the gap on Max Verstappen considerably. Is now within DRS range of the Red Bull. And forget about the 5-second penalty. Charles Leclerc wants to take the lead of this Grand Prix on track. Getting going with those tyres. Box for George Russell. So this will be where it gets interesting, because George Russell has got to come in. George Russell is going to drop all the way down. We're looking at, Valtteri Bottas possibly being the driver that George Russell comes out nearest. And actually, I'd like to know where George Russell comes out. So where is George Russell now? Coming around towards turn 17. Perfect. So George Russell peeling into the pits. Does indeed. Releases Pierre Gasly into 3rd place. And let's see where George Russell comes out. I'm expecting sort of Daniel Ricciardo area. Logan Sargent has also pitted as well after struggling on those tyres and starting to fall behind Ocon, Piastri and Hamilton. Sergio Perez then 3 seconds off the back of Lewis Hamilton. But again, Sergio Perez has already pitted. And George Russell... Oh no, he did come out in front of Daniel Ricciardo. I thought he was going to come out just behind Daniel Ricciardo. But looks like George Russell came out just in front of Daniel Ricciardo. My stream sucks. I hate F1 and beanies. Well, yeah, this isn't the one for you, I'm afraid. I feel like this channel's maybe not the one for you, but that's all right. You're allowed to like stuff and not like stuff. Piastri definitely showing his worth here again. Yeah, absolutely flying Oscar Piastri. Just a shame that he hasn't been able to get in front of Esteban Ocon. I feel like that's the real challenge for Oscar Piastri. And there it is. Charles Leclerc makes the move down towards turn 14. Max Verstappen on the radio complaining about his tyres. And Charles Leclerc takes advantage. And the Ferrari, after starting on pole position, 16 laps into the Grand Prix, takes the lead back again as Max Verstappen peels into the pits. It's a shorter pit stop than I was expecting. Average pit stop time, apparently only 21 seconds. I was expecting it to be kind of 26, 27. 5-second penalty, of course, for Max Verstappen. So the Red Bull stationary for 5 seconds. And a 7.7 second stop for Max Verstappen. Not too shabby at all. Albon comes into the pits as well with the race leader that was Max Verstappen. And overtake it. Oh, there's a slow stop for Oscar Piastri. One of the tyres wasn't there for him. And just as we were singing his praises, Oscar Piastri is going to have to make up another couple of seconds. Focus on the lead. Yeah, but wait, the lead isn't actually that important right now. Because a lot of the cars that have already pitted are really going to come into play. Like, look where Verstappen is now, all the way down in 11th place. Sergio Perez, though, 4th. Ooh, Lewis Hamilton. Very steady. Possible puncture for Lewis Hamilton as Carlos Sainz makes his way past. Oh, and Hamilton knocks the bollard out from underneath. And Hamilton really, really struggling with something on board of that Mercedes car. And there is his teammate George Russell making his way past. Looks like the rear right. And yeah, Lewis Hamilton's race is going to be ruined. Gasly into the pits then releases Sergio Perez up into third place. And Hamilton does make his way to the pits. I think it's that rear right tyre on Lewis Hamilton's car. Just looks a bit strange. And the ride height you can see of the Mercedes car, yeah, is that rear right tyre. Just leaning towards it. Hamilton into the pits then. And Hamilton out once again. A 6.3 second pit stop. A slow from Lewis Hamilton. He's going to come out right at the back of the pack after a very, very slow lap and also a slow pit stop. Hamilton has a puncture. Does indeed. What's DRS new to Formula 1? Oh, Antonio literally answered, yeah. Drag reduction system. They get to open a little letterbox, basically, in their rear wing. And it allows for a reduction of drag on two particular straights. So down towards turn 5 and down towards turn 14, they're allowed to open the DRS as long as they're within a second of the car in front of them. Sergio Perez opening his DRS and moving past Esteban Ocon up into second place then, Sergio Perez. Missed out on Q3, of course, yesterday, but already up into second and 14.5 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. So the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc not looking as healthy in the lead as it was hoping to be. Is Leclerc extending? He's going long on this stint, Charles Leclerc. Makes you wonder whether the Ferrari team have opted for a one-stop strategy where they can go a little bit longer on this medium compound tyre, as long as they're not losing too much time to Sergio Perez behind. And it was only a couple attempts last lap. They also gained on Esteban Ocon, who's on the similar strategy to them. So Charles Leclerc not losing much time to the guys that have already pitted. Your Perez's, Strolls, your Sainz's, your Alonso's. Oscar Piastri with a puncture as well. That was why Piastri's pit stop was slower than anticipated. So there's a few punctures starting to pop up on a few different cars now. Lewis Hamilton with a puncture, Oscar Piastri with a puncture. As we now on board with George Russell, Zhou Guanyu in front of him. George Russell's just pitted and Zhou Guanyu, of course, pitted. No, Zhou Guanyu hasn't pitted yet. That's why he's in and amongst that pack. But George Russell makes the move stick. And up into 7th place. Max Verstappen behind in 9th. Pierre Gasly has also sort of fallen away from this pack a good chunk. Don't know whether Gasly had a slow pit stop. But Gasly was right underneath George Russell for the opening laps of this Grand Prix. And now all the way down in 10th place where George Russell is 7th. And Zhou Guanyu, I thought, was going to let Max Verstappen move past then, but not the case. And Zhou Guanyu holds on to that position in front of Max Verstappen, just slowing the Red Bull down through this middle sector. Oh no, the lap thing is gone. Actually, yes. Whilst we are Haven't got the lap deltas coming. I'm just going to have a little look at the sector times. So I'm just wondering who's gaining where. Charles Leclerc. Yeah, Charles Leclerc see just so quick through that first sector, even without any kind of DRS. The Ferrari's so good in a straight line. You can see, obviously, without the DRS on the huge straight down the back of the strip, Charles Leclerc all the way down in 13th place in terms of that third sector. But when it comes to just raw speed without DRS, Charles Leclerc still with the advantage. Hence, he was able to close that gap to Max Verstappen and take the lead of the Grand Prix. Sergio Perez then actually closing in on Leclerc. Leclerc losing 6/10 to Sergio Perez last lap. I think it might be around about the right time to get Charles Leclerc into the pits sometime soon. He's done 20 laps on those medium compound tyres now. 21 by the time he gets around this one. But Leclerc obviously looking for that one-stop strategy, whereas a few of those guys that pitted early probably looking to pit again just because of the punctures that we've seen. Punctures are common occurrence? Not really. Not super common. Depends on the track and also debris as well. Debris can cause quite a lot of problems. Obviously, the shards of carbon fiber can be pretty spiky when it comes to coming into contact with the Pirelli tyres, but they're not super common occurrence. And here it is then. As I said, Charles Leclerc into the pits. I thought that Ferrari wouldn't leave him out too much longer when he's losing that amount of time. But Charles Leclerc probably going to come out around about his teammate, maybe near Lance Stroll as well. Charles Leclerc's going to try his best to come out in front of Lance Stroll. It's going to be close. There is Lance Stroll coming around the outside of Charles Leclerc, and I think Stroll's going to take that position. He does indeed. So Stroll just ahead, but yep, Charles Leclerc just in front of his teammate, as I thought you would be. And now the Ferraris can maybe work together a bit, give Carlos Sainz a bit of DRS possibly to just escape the clutches of Fernando Alonso for a little bit longer. And George Russell making his way back through this pack. Max Verstappen, fastest lap of the Grand Prix from the Red Bull man, in 7th place though behind George Russell. And Russell trying his best to get past the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso. Alonso on those older hard compound tyres. Pitted very early on Fernando Alonso, and George Russell on the fresh rubber from some hard Pirelli tyres surely is going to be able to get that move done. Although Max Verstappen also in the rear view mirror of the two of them. It feels like these three might be right next to one another coming down towards turn 14. George Russell peels to the outside and tries to get past Fernando Alonso. Does get past Fernando Alonso before we get down towards turn 14. Max Verstappen also having a look at the Aston Martin car, and Fernando Alonso just positions his Aston Martin on the apex and says, you know what, I'm only losing one position at this moment in time. Bring back the lap, please. Sorry, apologies. I will do. It was frozen. So there was nothing happening anyway. And Max Verstappen does make that move beyond Fernando Alonso. Let's have a little look then. Sergio Perez is the one. A 138.1 from Sergio Perez. George Russell 139.5. Verstappen 138.6. It's going to be interesting to see how this kind of goes. We're not really going to see the full sort of shake of the pack, as it were. until we see the next few pit stops come in. Ricciardo now dead last. Should he retire from Formula One for good? Goodness me. It's gone very negative, Jay. He's had a few good races as Daniel Ricciardo, I would argue. Austin was a little bit 50-50, but Brazil was very, very quick from Ricciardo. Just a shame that he was a lap down on everybody else. They can tweak tire pressure. Yeah, that's very true. There is there are limits though. There is a maximum and minimum tire pressure. They'll replay a Charles Leclerc's pit stop for some reason. It's because the front right tire wasn't as quick as could be. So maybe he could have come out in front of Lance Stroll, actually, Charles Leclerc. That is a shame. Thank you, Alex, for subscribing. Appreciate that, mate. How's the temperature turned out for race 8? It's way warmer than it was expected to be. It was supposed to be like single digits, like 3-4 degrees or something crazy. It was expected to be the coldest race in Formula 1 history. But actually, it's nearer the kind of 10-12 degree mark. So it's a lot warmer than expected. As Carlos Sainz now under pressure from George Russell and Verstappen. And similar to what Alonso had, his Spanish compadre, is George Russell is on much fresher Pirelli rubber and is going to move to the right-hand side of Carlos Sainz. And Carlos Sainz not really going to be able to do too much about it, especially as Max Verstappen's going to come up the left-hand side of the Ferrari as well and takes the position. So Carlos Sainz, 2 positions lost in about 100 meters of track. Sainz obviously peeled out to try and defend from George Russell, then got a little bit out of shape and lost out. But yeah, as I said, we're not going to really know the shake of the entire pack until the final pit stops come in, because we've got like Pierre Gasly down in 8th place, whereas he was running behind George Russell and Verstappen. So Alonso and Sainz will probably move, or will probably get overtaken by Pierre Gasly at some point over the next few laps. Ocon's dropped backwards to 11th place now, but is on fresher rubber to someone like Joe, who hasn't stopped yet, for instance. But it's looking really good for Sergio Perez and Charles Leclerc. I would say are my 2 at this moment in time. Oh! And Verstappen tries to make a move on George Russell, and there's contact between the 2 of them. Oh, and there's a big chunk of damage to both, I think. Max Verstappen's front wing has taken a big chunk out of it. They went down towards turn 14. Max Verstappen clearly frustrated behind George Russell and wants to get back up towards Charles Leclerc as quickly as he possibly can, but loses out massively there, Max Verstappen, you have to say. Goodness me. Let's have a little look then. Max Verstappen on the radio. Checking front wing and tyre. Tyre looks okay. Staying out for now, Max Verstappen, but Max Verstappen on the radio saying that George Russell just turned into him. Nothing that he could do. Need a little replay on that, really, because we just sort of saw the bump. Didn't see any of the build-up to it, so I'm not sure who's entirely at fault there between George Russell and Verstappen. Here we go then. The onboard. George Russell down towards turn 14. Max peels to the inside. Is alongside George Russell, and yeah, there is just a chunk of contact. I don't know if George Russell really sees him just turns in, and yeah, Max Verstappen's front wing taken out by the front left of George Russell's car. It's an interesting one. Oh, safety car. There's debris on the track, so the safety car comes out. And I think if you're Sergio Perez, you pit. Because if you pitted, yeah, Perez, this is going to play into Sergio Perez's hands massively. He might even come out in the lead. He was, what, 18 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc? I think Sergio Perez is going to be in the lead of this Grand Prix and on the freshest tyres. Or has Charles Leclerc managed to come down and into the Grand Prix lead? Carlos Sainz is going to come in. Stroll, Verstappen in as well. Russell into the pits. Alonso into the pits as well. So a real good chunk of those kind of front runners into the pits. Releases Gasly, Piastri, Ocon. The cheap pit stop coming in the middle of the race then. And Verstappen, our championship winner, into 5th place. Sergio Perez came out just behind Charles Leclerc. It was close though. It was very close. But those two are going to be battling for one another now. Subscription ran out weeks ago for BN Sport. Only 2 races left in the season, to be fair. Save the little bit of cash. Come back in March. What do I think Alonso's final position at the end of the race will be? Well, we're going to see it now, really. Because, as I said, we needed to wait until those second pit stops to really shake up and see where people were. Fernando Alonso, 12th at this moment in time. You'd imagine he'll get in front of Sargent. Albon on some older tyres too. I mean, it's looking like a good solid point for Alonso, but nothing, nothing pushing towards the podium positions. Why is Lando out? A little collision with the barrier for Lando Norris, unfortunately, towards the beginning of this Grand Prix. Just lost the rear end of the McLaren car and ended up skidding his way all the way down to turn 12, it was, I think, where Lando Norris came to a stop. So George Russell and Max Verstappen coming to blows with one another. Ooh. Might have been a little bit of an unsafe release for Lance Stroll, possibly. Or is it Fernando Alonso? It might be Fernando Alonso. Oh no, it is Lance Stroll. Comes out right beside Max Verstappen. And Verstappen, yeah, just had to take that position from Lance Stroll, unfortunately. For Stroll, couldn't really hold on to that one. Oh, Verstappen didn't change his front wing. So Verstappen did not change his front wing during that. Max does indeed have a 5-second penalty as well to take into account. So Max Verstappen really not the weekend that he was hoping for. And he already hates the Vegas Grand Prix. He's not going to like it at all after this. A 5-second penalty for pushing Charles Leclerc off the track at turn 1. Then lost the lead. Oh. As one of the marshals trips over where the bollard used to be. Ah, wheel cover came off George Russell's car during that little collision with Max Verstappen. But yeah, as I was saying, Verstappen really not having a Grand Prix to remember. 5-second penalty, then overtaken by Charles Leclerc. And then came into contact with George Russell and has moved backwards. But this man here, Sergio Perez, for me, is in the best position. I know Charles Leclerc does have the position on track, but Sergio Perez with slightly fresher tyres, you'd imagine everyone's going to try and go to the end on the tyres that they are on at this moment in time. Oh, Charles Leclerc nearly lost the Ferrari. The tyres being so cold behind the safety car. Him, yeah, just needs to be a little bit careful, Charles Leclerc. A crash behind the safety car is not what we need from the Monasque man. Max Verstappen in the steward's office once again. But it feels like, yeah, George Russell maybe just didn't see him turned in. And there it is. George Russell with a 5-second penalty. So Verstappen with a 5-second penalty, and now George Russell also with a 5-second penalty. As we get back underway then, Charles Leclerc becomes the safety car effectively and will run down towards the start-finish line. Pierre Gasly has a little look at Sergio Perez. Lance Stroll and Albon having a little to and fro as Fernando Alonso gets past Logan Sargent. Albon manages to get that position back in front of Lance Stroll, but Alonso stays in front of Sargent. Hulkenberg up into 15th place as he gets past Daniel Ricciardo. Oscar Piastri going wheel to wheel with Pierre Gasly. And Oscar Piastri up the inside of the Alpine and takes 3rd place. That was very, very close between Piastri and Gasly there. But some good racing between the two of them, as Max Verstappen now also looking to get past Pierre Gasly. Gasly looking to be really struggling with temperature on those tyres. Sergio Perez really battling with Charles Leclerc already, trying to hold himself within that DRS range, of course. No DRS for the first couple of laps after a safety car. But if you can hold yourself within that second of the driver in front, putting yourself in an excellent position. So close, Sergio Perez. Can see the gap to Piastri already is a couple of seconds visible difference between the gap. And there is George Russell with the 5-second penalty in front of Carlos Sainz. Unsafe release for Max Verstappen reviewed and no further investigation needed. So luckily just the one 5-second penalty for Max Verstappen at this moment in time. Russell, it was nothing, just an incident. Leclerc could be using mediums for his final stint. I feel like a lot of these cars are maybe going to try and gamble to go to the end on these. Oh, Sergio Perez definitely, after pitting under the safety car, 21 laps is, you'd imagine, fairly comfortable on a set of hard compound tyres. But obviously, Charles Leclerc's tyres for that 5 laps older than Sergio Perez's. Plus, Sergio Perez right underneath the rear wing of Charles Leclerc already. Maybe just struggling a little bit on the tyre warm-up in the Ferrari. Obviously, those tyres being a little bit older doesn't help. Is he going to have a go? Not this time. Verstappen having a little look at Pierre Gasly. And still no DRS, of course, and Max Verstappen very close to the rear wing of Pierre Gasly. Gasly, if he does lose that position to Max Verstappen, is then right next to his teammate, Esteban Ocon. And Ocon on 3-lap pressure, hard compound tyres. So will be interesting to see whether or not Ocon and Gasly are kind of given the go-ahead to have a little battle, or whether the Alpine team step in and say, you know what, lads, we need this solid chunk of points if possible. DRS enabled for Max Verstappen. But Gasly still holds on to 4th place. Alex Albon having an exceptional race in the Williams, in and amongst the chaos, is still running in 7th place. Lance Stroll has come back to life. Started in 19th, remember, Lance Stroll, in the Aston Martin, up into 8th place after jumping a good few positions off the start. And then playing the strategy game, George Russell in 9th place after his collision. But a 5-second penalty for George Russell. Obviously, Max Verstappen has at least done his 5-second penalty. That 5-second penalty for George Russell still to come is the problem for the Mercedes car. Oh, Sergio Perez gaining and gaining, but not enough. Charles Leclerc giving it absolutely everything you can imagine down the straights. Oscar still got a pit stop to do. Doesn't have to, but is on 15-lap old hard compound tyres, Oscar Piastri. So it's going to be a hell of a stint if he does go to the end of the Grand Prix, although he's just set the fastest lap of the race as the Australian. So maybe Piastri thinking, I can do this. Just needs to hold on to those tyres if possible and make them last. Logan Sargent dropping all the way down to 13th place. You can see the gap between him and Albon now, considerable. Also, Kevin Magnussen, a bit of an odd one. Obviously, has stopped twice, but really has fallen down the order, Kevin Magnussen. A real shame, because the Hasses did look quick right at the beginning of this Grand Prix, and Kevin Magnussen running in the points, having a little battle with the Williams cars. Just hasn't quite come to fruition as we head into sort of the 60% laps of this race. Even Max and Lewis fans want Leclerc to win. Yeah, it's very, very fair. He's had a tough season as Charles Leclerc, but it's come to life in this second one. I would like to point out that I did predict a Charles Leclerc victory. I did also predict Max Verstappen to come in 2nd place. But Sergio Perez, here he goes then with DRS down towards turn 14 and does it. Sergio Perez, the street circuit meister, is back in the lead. God, we haven't seen Sergio Perez leading a Grand Prix for a good little while. But the Mexican, his revival tour is back on again. 2nd place in the driver's standings, of course, up for grabs, especially with Lewis Hamilton all the way down in 15th place. And Sergio Perez, a really solid move, actually. Gets himself right at the inside of Charles Leclerc. Sticks to that left-hand side of the track. And beats Charles Leclerc into the braking zone as well. Oh, did he go hard? Ah, yeah, very good point. Very, very good point, Mike. I forgot he started on the hard compound tyre. I just assumed everyone started on the medium. But yeah, he did start on the hard compound tyre, didn't he? Because he was down in 18th place. It's because everyone pretty much started on the medium. Who was it? Lewis Hamilton started on the hard compound tyre. So he'll... I know Lewis Hamilton's already done a little stint on the mediums, hasn't he? And Max Verstappen trying his best to get past Piastri, and does indeed. Verstappen up into the podium places once again. And it does feel like the Red Bull is maybe coming to life a touch now in this race. The Ferrari looked better in that final stint. And here it is then, the battle between Gasly and Ocon. I was wondering whether or not they were going to be able to battle one another. And it does feel like they are, because Ocon goes for a move into turn 1. But Gasly tries to go back around the outside, and Gasly holds on to the position for now. But there is a lot of battling happening between these two. They're going to go again. Down towards turn 5. Alpines side by side. Ocon on the radio. And Ocon on the radio is asked to hold position and doesn't. Ocon decides against that and moves up into 5th place. Charles Leclerc just still struggling on those hard tyres. Problem is, those hard tyres just 5 laps. 5 laps is big. 5 laps, and also the safety car underneath those hard compound tyres for Charles Leclerc. It's just not quite clicking. Charles Leclerc still within DRS range, though, of Sergio Perez, so he's able to just hold on to the back of that. Sally's. No worries, Sally. It's an early one. It's an early one. DRS is when you see the cars come down the straights, so down towards turn 5 and turn 14, if they're within a second of the car in front, they have an activation, which is where the rear wing has a little flap, and that flap opens up to reduce the drag, or drag reduction system. So it reduces the drag on the rear wing and increases the straight line speed of the car. Basically gives you an advantage down the straights if you are the attacking car, so that you can get up alongside other drivers and try and make moves stick. Ocon may or may not defend against anymore, but against his teammate always defends like a lion. Yeah, Ocon up into 5th place after being asked to hold position as well. It'll be interesting to see how the team deal with that, because Gasly in an interview, well, was it the Formula One podcast I was listening to? Gasly did a podcast of some kind recently and was talking about the relationship with Esteban Ocon and said it is very much a working relationship with Esteban Ocon. Like, they're not friends in any way. And Charles Leclerc is going to try and make a move on Sergio Perez, and does. Charles Leclerc takes the lead again. Sergio Perez maybe just caught sleeping, and Charles Leclerc with the DRS, the additional straight line speed advantage of the Ferrari, moves back up into the lead. And wow, Sergio Perez then back down into 2nd place, and Max Verstappen all of a sudden is right back in this race. 5-second penalty for Max Verstappen doesn't slow him down that much. All the way up into 3rd place once again for the Dutchman. And now on the rear wing of Sergio Perez. And Perez and Verstappen did stop at the same time as well, so they are on the same tyre compound as one another. Charles Leclerc with a really deep braking manoeuvre. Great move from Charles Leclerc. Yeah, just gambled. Did the Monegasque man, and gets himself back up into the lead of this Grand Prix in the Ferrari. And I think he's just going to try and get the 2 Red Bulls to squabble amongst themselves, and hopefully within that he'll be able to extend out a little bit of a lead in the Ferrari. And I think that's happening right now, because Sergio Perez not quite in the DRS range. Oh no, is he in the DRS range? I don't think Sergio Perez is, and I think Max Verstappen's going to drive past his teammate and take 2nd place. So Sergio Perez from the lead of the Grand Prix, now down into 3rd place just after 2 laps. And Sergio Perez just, still, you can just see the difference in confidence between Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen in this Red Bull package, can't you? Because Max Verstappen just seems to be able to extract pace from the Red Bull wherever he is and whatever they're doing. Whereas Sergio Perez, struggling already. And Verstappen on the radio saying, let's work together here. So trying to give Sergio Perez a little bit of a pull along, I imagine. And we'll if he does manage to get the lead of the Grand Prix, will maybe also back Charles Leclerc up into Sergio Perez and allow his teammate to take second place, because then the Ferrari has to deal with 2 Red Bulls. Charles Leclerc still in the lead. 0.4 of a second to Max Verstappen behind. Sergio Perez actually dropping out of DRS range of Max Verstappen. So Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen just still going for it. Sergio Perez on the radio. Stay with him. Double toe. Working together if you can. But as I said, the Mexican really struggling. Just can't quite get there. Over a second behind, especially now, as Max Verstappen is going to make the move for the lead. Going for that move down the inside. And we know that they get very close to one another. It was to and fro, but Max Verstappen takes the lead of the Grand Prix in the Red Bull. Very nice little move between the two of them. And Max Verstappen, of course, with a broken front wing, we have to remember. Max Verstappen. And now let's see. Charles Leclerc, DRS with Max Verstappen. But I feel like Max Verstappen's going to cause a little bit of a problem for Charles Leclerc and back Sergio Perez up into him. Has Verstappen served his 5-second penalty? He has indeed, yeah. All done and dusted for Max Verstappen. George Russell, of course, with a 5-second penalty still running down in 9th place. Is the lead car notified when the trailing car activates DRS? They'll be notified on the radio by their mechanic. They'll basically be like, they are within a second of you, so just be careful. They'll have DRS down on the straight. And also you can see it in your wing mirrors if you really look for it. Max is inevitable. Just feels like that this year. Just absolutely flying in that Red Bull car. And again, it's just like how Max Verstappen adapts to the Grand Prix. Like, obviously, he wasn't 100% sold on the Red Bull setup in that first stint, was struggling a touch. And Charles Leclerc was able to get that position back on Max Verstappen. But now Max Verstappen just looks like a completely different beast at this point. Sainz and Alonso not able to crawl back towards the front. Not quite, no. They just haven't had the pace on the alternate set when they've had that tyre advantage. And also they had a little battle between one another and are still battling between one another, which is costing both of them time. But you can see Sainz and Alonso behind Russell now. And Russell on the same tyres as the two of them. Alex Albon under pressure from George Russell now, though. And Albon has the inside line and will just hold a position in the Williams car. And there's a hell of a train behind this Williams car, actually. I've just noticed. Yeah, Alex Albon with Russell, Sainz, Alonso and Hamilton all within DRS. Ooh. Alex Albon, though, will try and hold on to some points for Williams this weekend after a sensational qualifying where both Williams cars were starting on the 3rd row of the grid. Logan Sargent, unfortunately, hasn't been able to keep pace with the front runners. It's dropped all the way down to 14th. Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hulkenberg as well. It's kind of the graveyard of cars behind Zhou Guanyu of what could have been. Logan Sargent qualified so well, dropping down to 14th. Kevin Magnussen qualified so well, down into 15th. Nico Hulkenberg made up positions at the start of the race, down into 16th. Ricciardo and Tsunoda, the AlphaTauris are back, 17th and 18th. It's just like all of the maybes have all fallen by the wayside. And Charles Leclerc still within DRS, yeah. The Red Bull team just letting Max Verstappen know. Whereas Hamilton in all of this, 12th place. Catching up to the back of this pack, though. So Hamilton has made his way through the likes of Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Sargent and Zhou, but now sits at the back of this real train of cars. Oh, and Albon goes deep. Oh, and Albon, you can see those tyres are that much older, 10 laps older. And locks up as Alex Albon is going to lose positions. I think this might be Alex Albon needing to pit because those tyres look absolutely shot to pieces. They've only done 23 laps, actually. So the guy's looking to go... Ooh. Oh, and Charles Leclerc is outside the DRS range. Sergio Perez is going to have the DRS, though, to the back of the Ferrari car. So this is not over now. There's still a lot of interchange that could happen in the podium scoring places. Leclerc and Perez could be either way around by the end of this lap. 10 laps left to go then. Alex Albon has shown that 23 laps on the hard compound tyre, and they do seem to fall away from you a touch, and Charles Leclerc has still got 10 laps left to go with 19 laps done. So is he going to be able to do 29 laps on the hard compound tyre? It's going to... like Verstappen and Perez doing 24. It's like yeah, probably. Piastri, of course, on the hard compound tyre, looking for a gap. Oscar Piastri, or maybe just praying for another safety car, because Piastri running in 4th place, but does need to pit again. So kind of looking a little bit better than it really is for Oscar Piastri. Ocon and Gasly then, like, right behind the podium positions. If something does go wrong for one of these 3 cars out front. Safety car now would make the race very interesting. Very true. Yeah, it would open the door for quite a few of those cars kind of in and around the midfield, especially, well, it would play massively against Ocon and Gasly. They're going super long on the hard compound tyre of the Alpines. And in fact, Lance Stroll now getting past Pierre Gasly by the looks of things on those fresher hard compound tyres. And Gasly, yeah, Gasly also 23 laps. So it does feel like the kind of 20 odd lap is a bit hard on the hard compound tyre. Oscar Piastri just about making it work in 25 laps. But Lance Stroll is an interesting one, especially... Was he quicker than Esteban Ocon last lap? No, but he did have to overtake Pierre Gasly. Keep an eye on Lance Stroll here. Lance Stroll might be looking for a 4th place finish. Yeah, Stroll is interesting. He is indeed. Ocon could catch him in the driver's standings this week. Don't think so. I think Lance Stroll's going to finish ahead of both the Alpines, if I'm honest. Fresher tyres by 6 or 7 laps. Ocon already in his sights. Couple of seconds the gap now. Has just dispatched his teammate Pierre Gasly. George Russell being given the go-ahead by Toto Wolff to push hard and go for it. Thank you, Shine David, for the subscription. Appreciate that, mate. Thank you for stopping by. Hope you're enjoying the Las Vegas Grand Prix with 9 laps left to go. Fernando Alonso, a little on board of the Aston Martin, running in 10th place, the point scoring places. George Russell, of course, with that 5-second penalty, so will drop all the way back behind his teammate, George Russell. So actually, Lewis Hamilton also running in the points at this moment in time, just with that 5-second penalty. Stroll did well in Brazil also. Yeah, he has had a good couple of races. Very good in Brazil, actually, I would say, Lance Stroll. Possibly even kind of up there with one of the best races we've seen from him in a good couple of years, to be honest. Lance Stroll really coming to life in these sort of final three races. Oh! And Charles Leclerc goes super deep, opens the door, and Sergio Perez walks straight through it. And that is a huge cost to Charles Leclerc. Goes very deep. That's Zlatan Ibrahimovic in the Ferrari garage. Because, of course, we need his reaction to Charles Leclerc. Big error from Charles Leclerc, indeed. Locks up, but is those hard compound tyres just falling away from the Ferrari? 21 laps he's now done on those hard compound tyres. Wow, did really well not to spin or get into that wall, did Charles Leclerc. It's a proper big lockup, but a huge gap for Sergio Perez to drive straight through. And it is Max Verstappen from Sergio Perez at the front of the pack in the Red Bulls. And Max Verstappen already a 3-second advantage over his teammate. Oscar Piastri finally into the pits then. So we're seeing where Piastri really is in this race, unfortunately, for the Australian. And it's not the 4th place that he was just running in, I'll tell you that for free. It's all the way down, just in front of Alex Albon now. Really, really quick pit stop from the McLaren team. Gives Oscar Piastri maybe a lifeline. 7 laps left. It's going to be on fresh medium tyres. And he just needs basically, well, everyone in front of him to start falling off a cliff. And Gasly has started doing that already. So Gasly now down into 8th place. And is now under pressure from Fernando Alonso. Still playing P4. George Russell, apparently. Maybe if Carlos Sainz falls off a cliff. But he's on the same tyre length as him. And Lance Stroll is in front. Not sure. Anyway. Toto Wolff maybe just being optimistic. Pierre Gasly is sitting duck now on those hard compound tyres. The Alpine has really burned through those hard compound tyres of Gasly's car. And just falling down the order with 1 stop as opposed to the 2 stops of the cars around him. And Hamilton now looking to get past Pierre Gasly as well. And Oscar Piastri's not going to be too far behind, I don't think. Oh no, Alex Albon has moved in front of Pierre Gasly, of Oscar Piastri. Oh no, Piastri takes the position back. Ignore me. Oscar Piastri back up into 11th place. And you'd imagine soon up into the point scoring places. A real shame for Pierre Gasly, actually. Obviously qualified in 4th place. Was looking really, really quick. And the hard compound tyre just hasn't done the strategy quite right. Fastest lap by Max. Yeah, he's just absolutely flying, to be honest with you. It's just absolutely come to life at the end of this Grand Prix as Max Verstappen. Max does not have to amend his 5-second penalty. Believe it or not, he's already served it. Although it doesn't feel like it, does it, with a 4-second gap to Sergio Perez. The final 6 laps then of this Grand Prix. Max Verstappen comfortably leading and will take a win here in Vegas. You'd imagine Sergio Perez, of course, very good at these street circuits in 2nd place. Charles Leclerc in 3rd. There's still an opportunity for Charles Leclerc to jump back up into 2nd. It's not all over yet. He has got that DRS advantage. It was just the mistake from Charles Leclerc that opened the door for Sergio Perez. But you'd imagine Sergio Perez will have enough to hold off the Ferrari, especially with the fresher tyres. Esteban Ocon in 4th place has had a sublime race, but will be under pressure from Lance Stroll towards the end of this Grand Prix. Just a second, the gap between the two of them. George Russell also hunting down Esteban Ocon. Sainz, Alonso, Hamilton behind. They're all on the same tyre strategy as one another, so they are sort of in position. You won't imagine there's too many interchanges between those. Obviously, George Russell with a 5-second penalty, so we just need to keep an eye on who's within 5-second range of George Russell. And then Pierre Gasly, the final point scoring place at this moment in time. But Oscar Piastri, 5 laps and 5 seconds is the task ahead of him. If Oscar Piastri can get up into the points, that will deprive Pierre Gasly of that final point scoring place. Then behind that, Albon is kind of out of this now. Williams deciding to go for that one-stop strategy. 29 laps Albon has done on those hard compound tyres, and they are absolutely falling off that Williams car. And here is Lewis Hamilton with DRS then to Fernando Alonso. He's going to slide the Mercedes up the inside and actually get the move done before they even get to the corner. So Hamilton up into 8th place in the Mercedes. But as I was saying, Albon backwards is effectively done and dusted at this point. Magnussen does make a move on Zhou Guanyu, gets up into 13th place, but Magnussen, Zhou, Hulkenberg, Ricciardo, Sargent all done and dusted. And there is a yellow flag in Sector 3. Ooh. And there's Nico Hulkenberg is retiring from the race by the looks of things. He's gone down the runoff area at turn 14 and just moved his Haas off of the racing track and will be retiring from the Grand Prix. Nico Hulkenberg, that's a shame. The Haasers did look quick at the beginning of this Grand Prix, but again, it's that tyre degradation thing with them. Just can't quite get it done. Oscar Piastri now 3.3 seconds behind Pierre Gasly. It's definitely creeping up, is Oscar. Sainz needs to push. Don't think the thing is, Carlos Sainz, though, is as long as he's within 5 seconds of Russell, he'll be more than happy. He doesn't really need to take that position on track. Leclerc back in DRS. He's been in DRS for a couple of laps, though, Charles Leclerc. Again, I don't think it's over with. I feel like Charles Leclerc has a lunge in him, but it's just whether or not those hard compound tyres will actually allow him to have a lunge. Why did Max get a penalty? Yeah, pushing the, as the guys have said in the chat, pushing Charles Leclerc wide at turn 1 of the Grand Prix. It was a warranted 5-second penalty in my opinion, but as you can see, the pace of Max Verstappen just a little bit too much as Oscar Piastri sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. That gap 1.9 seconds. Now Oscar Piastri with 3 laps left to go. There is a couple of points on the line for Oscar Piastri then. So he would, if he gets into the top 10, get that point for 10th place plus the fastest lap point. Yuki Tsunoda with a gearbox issue on the radio, he's saying. So looks like Yuki Tsunoda might retire from this Grand Prix, although he was running down in 17th place. Valtteri Bottas has just moved ahead of him. Piastri already with a DRS of Gasly. Jesus Christ, I thought it was going to be like a last lap move. But it's not, and Yuki Tsunoda doesn't even make it to the pits. Decides to do what Nico Hulkenberg did and retire the car down at turn 14. George Russell then with a move on Lance Stroll and moves up into 5th place, but it's kind of too little too late maybe from George Russell, unfortunately. He's going to need a 5-second gap to Stroll and Sainz to hold on to that position. I think has he got a 5-second gap to Lewis Hamilton? No. So George Russell at the minute would still drop behind Lewis Hamilton, but now has a 1.5 seconds to really push. Maybe try and catch Esteban Ocon. And Oscar Piastri already has made that move then. And up into 10th place. So Gasly really just falling by the wayside as his tyres are 31 laps old now. Oscar Piastri's fresh medium tyres coming to life. And 2 points for Oscar Piastri if he holds on to that fastest lap as well. George is the one with the 5-second penalty. Yeah, George is the only one. So Max Verstappen penalty served. So he got that 5-second penalty earlier on, and you can serve it whilst at a pit stop, effectively. So you come to a stop for 5 seconds before the mechanics then work on your car in the pit lane. So Max Verstappen has served his penalty. George Russell has not. Verstappen on the radio. And Max Verstappen asked to maybe slow down to give Sergio Perez a helping hand. And to be fair, the gap between Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen was basically 5 seconds or 4.5 seconds. Has now dropped to 2.5. So Verstappen giving Sergio Perez a little bit of a helping hand as we go on to the final lap of the Grand Prix. Verstappen, a team player when he still wins the Grand Prix. Verstappen, though, as he's closed that gap to Sergio Perez, makes it look a lot closer than it was. And Charles Leclerc, one final dart up the inside for Charles Leclerc. On the cards, down towards turn 14. DRS wide open then for the Ferrari on the final lap of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Closing in on Sergio Perez. Is he going to be able to do it? A toe for Sergio Perez from his teammate. Might just be enough. Charles Leclerc's going to go up the inside, though. He's going to go for it, and Charles Leclerc takes second place up into turn 14. Is Sergio Perez going to come back at him, trying to get in the toe of the Ferrari as they come down to the final corner? Max Verstappen's going to come around and win the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and Charles Leclerc's going to hold on to second. Sergio Perez just behind in third place. George Russell has taken Esteban Ocon, a distant 4th place, but then also has that 5-second penalty. So George Russell will drop a considerable number of places as he takes the checkered flag. Ocon, Stroll, Sainz, Hamilton, and Alonso all take it very swiftly behind him as well. So George Russell down into 8th place from 4th. Alonso and Piastri round out the points. And what a finish from Charles Leclerc then. Great dive bomb from the Ferrari. You have to hand it to him. Max Verstappen did try his best. Sort of closed the gap to Sergio Perez. Gave him a little bit of a toe, but wasn't enough. And to be fair, Charles Leclerc very much deserving of that 2nd place finish. So Max Verstappen takes the first ever Las Vegas Grand Prix victory. And what a victory it was. Wonderful, wonderful drive from Max Verstappen there, especially with that 5-second penalty and damage to the front wing as well. When he's good, he's good. And sometimes you just got to hand it to him. Max Verstappen's on a different level this season. Charles Leclerc started on pole position, pushed out of it straight away off the start of the Grand Prix, but moved up, and 2nd place for Charles Leclerc, well deserved. Sergio Perez did really well, benefited off of the safety cars, but did really, really well with Sergio Perez in 3rd place. Esteban Ocon with an absolutely phenomenal drive, similar to Sergio Perez, just benefited off of the safety cars at the right time. Same with Stroll, you could argue as well, up into 5th place. Carlos Sainz, though, I feel like 6th place is pretty good for him. The Ferrari did have pace today, as shown by Charles Leclerc. Had Carlos Sainz started at the top where he qualified, didn't have that 10th place penalty, maybe it could have been different. Hamilton and Russell, 7th and 8th place from the Mercedes team. They'll take that. Although the gap in the Constructors closed by Ferrari once again, still open for the final race of the season. Fernando Alonso, bit of damage limitations in the Aston Martin car, finishes in 9th, and Oscar Piastri in 10th place. It's the guys behind you've got to feel a little bit sorry for. Gasly and Albon, Magnussen, they started in the point scoring positions, but couldn't quite get it done and ended up failing to get the strategy quite right and get themselves into the right window. Gasly really falling off at the end there because of the tyre management in that Alpine. Albon the same. Sargent on his third home Grand Prix this season. Logan Sargent started up in 6th place, finished in 16th. Ricciardo, Tsunoda, no pace in the AlphaTauri this weekend for them, unfortunately. Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas the same in the Alfa Romeos. And then Nico Hülkenberg coming to a stop towards the end of the Grand Prix, and Lando Norris coming into contact with the wall very, very early on in this one. But there we are, the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Signed, sealed, delivered. And we have one more race this season. It's been a good season, I think, the 2023 campaign. I know we can talk about the fact that Max Verstappen has won a lot of the races and continues to win a lot more of the races. But all done and dusted in this one. What's the yellow flag? Ooh. Not sure, to be honest. Final sector under yellow flag. Doesn't say. Just says yellow flag in the final sector. But there we are. Science 10 position penalty was because of the manhole cover. Yeah, they had to change around components. And when you swap engine components, unfortunately, that also comes with a penalty in Formula 1. Max driver of the day, winning despite a penalty, overriding Checo. Yeah, Max Verstappen really, really quick. Charles Leclerc, I think, ending up with the driver of the day vote, but I can agree, Max Verstappen very much in the mix for it. What I would like you to do then is, just before we all leave, first and foremost, hit the like button, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and then head over to the community tab. There is a little picture of Daniel Ricciardo over there for you. If you could just click on that picture of Daniel Ricciardo and leave a little comment of your hot take from the Vegas Grand Prix weekend. Let me know your hot takes. Can be anything from the race, from qualifying, or from the weekend in total. Let me know your hottest takes and your opinions, things you want to know about that maybe after this weekend you're still not 100% sure how that happened, why that happened, if that happened in that way for a certain reason. Leave a comment on there, and tomorrow I will have a video, or maybe tonight. Depends how quickly I can get it edited. Possibly, as soon as possible, you will have a video in your subscription feed of your hottest takes from the Grand Prix and my reaction to them. So click that link, head over to the community tab, make sure you leave a hot take, and then I'm going to disappear from you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate you all getting up early. It's 9:30 now in the UK. And Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc having a little bit of a debate. And Sergio Perez in the red suit. Really confused me there. I thought that was Carlos Sainz, but he is not. Thank you all so much. As I said, leave a like, subscribe, all that good YouTubery stuff. Hot takes coming up very, very soon. And I will see you all next week for the final race of the 2023 season, Abu Dhabi.